Hello, welcome to the second video in this content section entitled Creating an Assessment from Start to Finish. The purpose of this video is going to be talking about creating the assessment within the gradebook. So to start that off, I guess the first thing I should talk about is what is my purpose for doing this? Why would I even create this assessment within EDSB's gradebook? Well, one of the things that I really enjoy about this that works for me is that I'm able to use the gradebook to track all of my assessment data, regardless of what type of assessment type it is, whether it's assessment for, as, or of learning. EDSB's gradebook allows me to track all of those. I can organize all of my assessment data in one place, and by doing this I can use the data formatively to make decisions about my next steps for instruction. This also helps inform my professional judgment when it comes time for reporting and evaluation. Within the EDSB gradebook, I can also use this to provide timely descriptive feedback to students, and I have the option of sharing, if I choose to do so, each assessment task with the parents and students as well. So one of the first things I'll do is take my maze spheral coding task that I've created. I have the task created, and it's within a unit called Geometric Properties, and I'm going to talk a little bit about why I chose that as my unit. So if I open up that task, and I go into edit mode, this will give you an idea of how I've created this assessment to begin with. When you create an assessment, which would be from up here where it says add assessment, you have to give it a name, so I've called it my ES maze coding task. The reason I put the word ES at the beginning is the EDSB gradebook does not give me an easy way to filter all of my different assessment types. So the easiest way for me to really quickly see what type of assessment is to put for, as, or of at the very start of the title. My unit, by clicking the drop down, I can add a new unit at any time within my gradebook. I could have used geometry as my unit, but I don't want to confuse the strand with the unit. So within the Ontario curriculum, geometry is separated into 3 headings for the overall expectations: geometric properties, geometric relationships, and location and movement, which kind of separates the 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional, and transformational geometry components from one another. So this particular task is mostly a focus on geometric properties, 2-dimensional. I have chosen as the type of assessment in-class work. There are a number of other options that I could have chosen. I could have chosen assignment, I could have chosen a performance task, presentation, whatnot, but for me, in-class work is just a nice generic type of assignment that I can use for whatever's happening on a day-to-day basis in class, where I can see whether or not the students are accomplishing the learning goals or not. I can add expectations to this assessment. You do not have to do this, but if you click the drop down here, this little pop-out arrow will open up the expectations, and it is optional. So for me, it's just a good way to track which expectations I have been covering for assessment purposes and within my lessons as well. A little bit further down, this is one of the big areas that I would like to talk about for this video. My purpose of assessment, I've already mentioned this is an assessment as learning. I have the option to change that at any point, but this is basically formative assessment as learning. The method of assessment is the area that will lead to a lot of discussion within the EDSB gradebook. There are a number of different options here, most of which are associated with a grade or a mark. My whole point for this assessment is I want to use it formatively. I don't want the students to be focused on a grade. I'm just using it to see where the students are at and how I can change my instruction moving forward, or whether I have to review something, or whether the students are ready to move on. So out of all of these options, the yes/no option makes the most sense for me. I can basically use that yes, the students have met the criteria, or no, not yet, and I can provide comments or feedback as to why that is. So just a couple of options there to consider when you are creating these assessments, but the big thing for me is, again, I'm modeling this as an assessment as learning. So for the method of assessment, I don't want the students to focus on a grade and then just ignore the feedback I give them. A little bit further down, a couple of other options. You can make the status of this assessment visible to students. What that means is that when the student logs into their EDSB account, they have a record of this assessment showing up. They will see it in their calendar, they will see it in their class feed. If you want to create an assessment but hide it from the students, maybe you are doing some pre-planning and you don't want the students to see it for a little bit, you can change that to hidden. And that will be the end of this video, and we'll talk to you in the next video in the learning series, which will focus on learning evidence and then moving into a little bit more in depth on using Gradebook for feedback. Thank you.